I'm gonna keep it a buck 50. The movie was fucking phenomenal. I can't curse within the first 5 seconds, can I? The movie was flippin' amazing. Just straight up. I'm gonna watch it 2 more times on Sunday, which might be the past depending on when I edit this. Whoops. So maybe my opinion will change, but right now, I cannot think of a single genuine serious complaint. There was a couple cuts from the trailer that I'm kind of curious about. I'm pretty sure like this scene of the coffee pot dripping just wasn't in the real movie. That just makes you wonder if there's gonna be like a director's cut. Probably not, but it's a fun idea. I also wish we saw the process Power goes through when she gets her blood drained, but that wasn't something I expected them to really add on. That was more of a personal wish. There's also the fact that the girl Denji saves from the Muscle Devil is not in the scene where he's talking about his heart and everything, but I expected that too because she wasn't in the anime to begin with, so they literally would not make sense for her to be there. Oh, and I should have said this at the beginning of the video. Editor, put this at the beginning of the video. I don't care if it runs out weird. This video will not have any clips from the movie, even from like the trailers and stuff. I am just going to be speaking about what I liked, and that is it. So there will be spoilers for things in the movie, as well as I will be mentioning changes that happened in the movie, but I will not be showing any actual clips of it. So if you haven't watched the movie yet and you don't want to hear about what's in the movie, I suggest you click off, put it in your watch later, and come back after you watch it, because it's genuine is a amazing first experience. But if you haven't seen it yet and you don't mind a couple spoilers on things that are added, then you can enjoy my Metal Gear gameplay. I think this is kind of the method for stuff like this where I don't really have footage I can use, so I'm just gonna show Metal Gear gameplay. It's not called Metal Gear, so I'll just show Metal Gear gameplay because it's fun to watch. So the Reze arc movie is basically split into 2 very distinct parts. Part 1 is the lovey-dovey shenanigans with Reze and Makima, and then part 2 is the constant fight of public safety versus Reze/Typhoon. Both of these parts were fleshed out to a degree that I think makes them superior to the manga. Now don't get it twisted, I know people love to do this. This is not me saying that you shouldn't read the manga, or that, the manga shouldn't exist because this version's better. It's not what I'm trying to say at all, and I think that is a really, really silly mindset. I'm just saying, if I was to put someone on Chainsaw for the first time, I would tell them to watch this movie first. Just because I really think it does a lot that the manga is missing. And I think Fujimoto himself recognizes this. I'm pretty sure he tweeted once, or it was an interview where he mentioned there was a lot of things in the movie he said he wished he thought of. Editor, if you can find those screenshots, please put them on so I don't look like I'm making shit up. First, I'm just going to cover some more generic observations about the direction of the movie, I guess, and then I'll handle some more specific scenes that I have thoughts on. Again, if you don't want to be spoiled on any scenes or things that changes, I'm not going to show them, but I will be talking about them. So again, please do not spoil yourself. I know it's tempting. I know you are dying to hear me talk about this movie, but please, if you can wait, do it. It is so worth it seen in person. Or I think Crunchyroll is streaming it, right? I think this movie handled its horror and its comedy perfectly. Going into the screening, I was a little worried they would have gone too over the top with the anime ha-has, but I think they still kept it very in character for Chainsaw Man's humor. I watched all the trailers, despite how everyone was saying they're showing too much, they're showing way too much in the movie. They really didn't. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they did. But I did watch the trailers, and I did notice that it did feel more, not basic anime, but it did feel more anime. Like, it felt less like a movie and more like joking around. I saw the most, anime-like in the opening where they played Iris out. And I think that's fine. I don't have any gripes with that. I think using it in the opening would be the best time to. None of that is supposed to be taken seriously. That's when you can let all your sillies out. I remember the scene with Makima saying they need to drain power. They had power animated very over the top, and she was making like literal like dog chattering teeth sound effects. That's a different vibe than I originally got from the scene. But I think especially Denji and Beam benefited from this new comedic outlook. Denji's expression in this movie are just so sweet and innocent. There were so many times I was watching, I was just like, oh my god, he really is just precious. He really is just a little guy, isn't he? I've been so caught up with part 2 and how miserable Denji is at every corner that I forgot he used to be just a little bundle of joy, wasn't he? Beam was also just the fucking goat this whole movie. I've always been a Beam fan. I just think he's a fun guy. He doesn't have the deepest writing, but he's great foreshadowing for Pochita followers, and he's just a fun guy. But I think he especially benefits from the over-the-top anime gags. It just looks better when he's bouncing around all impulsive and loud. Like when he's explaining how Pochta moves around with his saw or with his chains. Like he's like wiggling and waggling. It's all stupid rubber hose and everything. I think that's fine. I think that works for Beam. And it's a it's a serious moment, but that moment in itself is not, if that makes sense. Like the fight is obviously serious, but that was like a calm between the storm, literally a calm before this typhoon. I think this could best be seen with, I think it's what, chapter 43 is what it covers technically. Yeah, chapter 43 is Denji talking to Pochta, and Pochta's guessing what person Denji's a crush on, and at the same time Reze is being chased by the cheese hunter. That's what I'm gonna call him. He doesn't have a name, and he calls her the cheese. He's the cheese hunter. The movie has these happen simultaneously, where after each person Pochta guesses, we get a look into the Reze chase. So like, Pochta's like, oh, is it Angel Devil? And Denji's like, no, that's a dude. And then we see Reze fucking running for her life from the dude, and cuts back. It's like, oh, it's Kabeni, which I think is fun. I'll talk more about this, like the guessing scene in a bit, because I think that is a really good example of what this movie does strong, and the fan service aspect. We'll get to that. I'm jumping around. There's a lot of thoughts going on here. You know, there's a lot. Back on the topic of like comedy and personality, I think Reze was handled really well in this movie. I think they gave her a lot more personality. Like before she reveals herself, she's a lot more bouncy and overly flirty, which I think really nailed in that idea that, yeah, her actions were purposely exaggerated to be attractive. A lot of what she was doing wasn't really Reze. It was her acting up so Denji would like her more. And I think that's good. I think in the manga, this is mostly shown from her blushing. She blushes like constantly around Denji in the manga, and she does in the movie too, but I feel like the manga especially shows that the way she was kind of getting under his skin was blushing and mild touching. But then in the movie, like when she scoots over to sit next to him, she like puts her leg like all up on him, like pulls him close and like gets all, you know, it's like really intimate. Most of all, I think my favorite change is what they did of the cheese hunter. They made him fucking sick. Like, I'm a person who loves side characters. Miri Sugo is literally in my top 5 favorite characters. But this dude has never stuck out to me as anything but an ugly burger. And ugly burger. I meant to say ugly dude and nothing burger. This dude has never stuck out to me as nothing but an ugly dude and a nothing burger used to reveal Reze is not the innocent girl she pretends to be. But in the movie, he's fucking terrifying. The way he moves and talks now is just totally unnerving. I don't know who they voiced for his Japanese actor, but they fucking got it spot on. Like, he knows what he's doing. His introduction in particular was pulled off wonderfully. I think he most of all got like the best upgrade, which is really funny because he's in maybe like what, 2 chapters probably. But I really do like him after this movie. It is sad they changed the "you're the cheese" line though. Real ones get that reference. Another thing I was curious about how they would handle was the nudity, that being during the pool scene and with Reze's attire throughout the fight, but to my surprise, nothing excessive was really added. The pool scene was handled beautifully. I think it really showed how nudity isn't inherently sexual. While Denji does make comments on her being sexy as she's undressing, there isn't any objectifying shots of her body. They're both shown fully naked in a respectable manner. You know, there's none of the like classic anime, like, you know what I'm talking about, fan service stuff. There was none of that, and I really do think that's cool. Now, that's not to say there wasn't any fan service. There was, in the form of Pochta guessing Denji's crush. And I think this is cool. You know, call me a gooner, but I think the way they expanded upon these shots is a fun way to expand upon them. It gave, you know, people their fan service in a way that makes sense within the story. Now for the art style debate. The argument of whether this style should have been what season 1 looked like, or season 1 should be what the movie went with, blah blah blah. I think both are phenomenal. This movie had me popping off for more scenes because the fights were as chaotic as I would expect, but the anime had more breathtaking visuals. I really think the anime aesthetic would have thrived better in part 2. It genuinely feels like it was ahead of its time. I feel like I can imagine part 2 of this style far better than part 1, and I really do hope they get the dude back. I think it's like Nakayama, I think. The editor put the right name, but that's the wrong one. I do think if they could get him back for part 2, he would have been appreciated more. Excuse my harsh language, but I would hate the Reze movie style for part 2. I just do not think that fits. Assuming part 2 even gets animated, let me put that out there. There's a chance part 2 doesn't get animated, and that is a little sickening to think about, but I would not like to see Reze style for part 2 at all. I don't think that works well. But for this movie, I would say I definitely preferred the chaotic style with the, the brighter saturated colors, whatever. I touched on it briefly earlier, but the opening with Iris Out was peak. There's a ton of references in there, like the devil's Denji's swinging around his chainsaws at, or actually the devil's poach that kills in hell. And then the shots of Makima getting ready in front of the mirror. She's got her shoes on, pulling her tie. Those are supposed to reference her preparing herself in chapter 83. That one I know off the top of my head for sure. I was popping off in the theater for that. It got me. Also, when the Iris Out opening opened with Makima feet, my friends started clapping miraculously. It was kind of funny. It was really funny. I think that's really most of my general thoughts. Onto individual scenes. I think basically every scene is an improvement from the manga. Either an improvement or on par is what I'll say. I think most are improvements, but there's some are just on par. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the movie date with Makima was on par up until the scene where Makima's crying, where it fully succeeded the manga. I think seeing more of the movie they were watching added a lot. It really sold the idea that both Denji and Makima were crying because they both desired what was happening on screen. The hug wasn't forced like Makima was complaining about earlier. It was just a genuine show of affection between two individuals, something neither Denji nor Makima had at this point. The tears slowly rolling down Makima's stone-cold face is terribly haunting. She puts on such a cold face throughout all of part 1, sometimes I forget how emotional this one scene is for her. As I said earlier, this bit with the Cheese Hunter was immensely improved. I can confidently say that I am a fan of this character now. His scenes felt so uncomfortable. Like, I have read this manga countless times, and I literally knew what was going to happen, but I was still disturbed by his presentation. The rooftop scene in general was very much improved. I really liked, I don't have any, video of it, so this might be hard to explain, but when he's talking to Reze, it shows a close-up of her, stone cold face, and her eyes are, twitching, and it's, really, I don't know what it is, but that detail is just crazy. There's a lot to think about there, a lot to comment on, but it is just a very scary look for her. As far as I can remember, this eye twitch didn't have really any indication in the manga, so this is one of the little details. I was like, okay, so did Fujimoto have an input on this, or did the director just have a crazy idea and he fucking just shot his shot? They really let Reze be terrifying in this movie. When Beam runs away with Denji, especially, she's standing on the little rail and she looks terrifying. I wish I would have got a picture. It was scary. I really don't have the skill set to truly verbalize what made these fight scenes so beautiful. It's really just one of those you have to see it in person kind of deals. I don't know how many different ways I can say she punched him really coolly. Is coolly a word? She punched him in a really peak way, sure. I will say though, if you are a manga reader and you have the manga pretty well memorized, I guess, the new sections will stick out heavily. You will be able to tell. I hope. I would hope you can. Otherwise, I might have a problem. Two parts that I remember very well off the top of my head was at one point they get knocked into a building and Reze hits a whole Street Fighter combo on my boy. If I could show anything from the movie, I would show that one. She legit hits him with a fucking ultimate. She does the same thing to Beam later when he's in his full shark mode. She hits him with a JoJo barrage and then just knocks him away. The way they have Reze move in this movie is so, especially in her Bomb Devil. Normal, she's fine, she's all bouncy, but in Bomb Devil, she moves so fluidly. The way they make her move makes her feel like she's stopping time, and I really like that. That's sick. I would say that the fight with Reze is a direct improvement, but the Typhoon fight itself, now that is an entire remaster. I never really thought about this fight much other than the absurdity of it, but in motion it looks beyond spectacular. I really never thought much about the fight, and it's kind of hard to read in manga form, plus the movie extends it by quite a lot. But it is honestly the part I'm most excited to rewatch because it is just so cluttered and chaotic, but somehow it's still more visually understandable than the manga. Now when they're fighting, they actually go inside the Typhoon and they're flying around the middle. I don't think they do that, or the way they do it, I don't think we see it is the problem. I don't remember. I could just never understand what was happening in the manga version, but the movie one's peak. It is a amazing fight. My most anticipated scene was also during the Typhoon technically, but it wasn't the Typhoon fight itself. It was the scene of Aki and Angel. Now I really don't care if you see Aki and Angel's relationship as more friends or romantic partners. I don't feel like getting into that. I don't care who you ship, whatever. but the way Aki hugged Angel in this scene felt so tender. It got me a little teary-eyed, I can't lie. The flashback to Angel's girlfriend was also animated really well. It was like a blurry, dreamlike kind of deal. It was really unique. Another scene that got me teary-eyed a little bit was Maximum the Hormone blasting during the Teach Me Everything fight. Maximum the Hormone is one of my favorite bands, so finally hearing the extended version of Hawatari and Yoko Senti was really exciting, especially the way they put it in. I don't know. They synced it really well. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to say it's peak in more ways than that. I really wish there was more I could say about the fight, but I feel like I'm just going to keep repeating it's peak. You gotta watch it. And it's really true. You need to watch it. Overall, I think the Reze movie arc... Hold on. Overall, I think the Reze arc movie was a flawless adaptation of one of the best arcs in the manga. It adapted the arc in the best way, accurate to the source material, but not afraid to throw in some unique and memorable anime-only content. I do think this is the best arc to get a movie, and I honestly don't know if any other one should. I will be seeing the dub in a couple days. Denji's English voice actor is one of my favorite people ever. He's such a sweet guy. I met him in a con recently. He was great. Great guy. I do want to see how well he performs in it, as well as all the other talented English voice actors. I'm interested to see how the Cheese Hunter's voice actor plays. I think the Japanese kind of nailed it, so he's got some shoes to fill, but I'll give my input on him. But I think that's where this video ends. Overall, great, amazing, spectacular movie. I couldn't have wanted anything better. And I'm ready for this 5-year drought we get before we get Assassin's Arc. If you made it through the video, you know, you can always like or subscribe. I don't really ever make movie reviews, except for that one time I did, but, you know, I kind of just make whatever. So if you like whatever, you should hit that subscribe button. Does this still light up when I say subscribe? I don't think it does. I really don't think I've noticed that recently. Did they take that away? It was a funny idea, too. Like button. Does it light up? Subscribe. Does that make it light up? You should subscribe if it does. If it doesn't, you should still subscribe. And you should comment and tell me it didn't do it. So then I know for sure it doesn't. I don't know how to end a video. Editor, can you just turn it off?